Next presentation will be done by the town of Schererville. Neil Simstaff for Nice Engineering. Sunset Boulevard Detention Project initially was approved by this board in April of 2017, and now is looking for construction of the detention project. Neil's at the microphone. I'll just keep make sure you're in with the microphone so everyone at home can hear.
You got it, Dan. Thank you, board members. We appreciate your consideration tonight. This is a project that, as Dan had mentioned, was in the Schererville project list for your initial master plan, and that was funded 80-20 for design from the board. And what we've seen as part of our analysis is an opportunity to provide detention in the neighborhood of 57.42 acre feet of detention storage in an area generally southwest of the intersection of US 30 and US 41 on the east side of Sunset Boulevard, which is just directly south of Old Lincoln Highway in Schererville. And this is an area that currently experiences some elevated water issues that what we looked at was providing a weir structure, not only for detention, but for maintenance of this area to allow the detention to be controlled rather than run unabated through the 3 36-inch storm sewers that run underneath Sunset Boulevard. The project that we currently have and are requesting funding for on an 80% basis, being $425,000 total construction cost, $340,000 is the request. And what we also additionally did was look at current residential and commercial developments in the town of Schererville, and to generate about 5 acre feet of storage with their infrastructure and detention pond construction that was well over $500,000. So we're looking for a lesser amount to increase this by an order of magnitude from 5 acres to 57 acres. So what we're doing is not changing the low and high water elevations. We're just proposing to mitigate those at a 100-year storm, a 16-hour duration, to provide an opportunity for all the downstream areas in the Schilling, Dyer, Plum Creek, Hart Ditch, all the way up through the Little Cal to the north. So the area benefited is essentially everything north and west of US 30 and 41 up to the Little Cal. We calculated release rates based on that storm, and using those, the required detention of this area, should it have been developed, would have been about 47 acre feet. And with the weir structure we're proposing for not only detention, but for maintenance of this area, that will provide 57.42 acre feet of storage. This is a fairly simple project because we're not proposing to do massive conveyance structures. It's simply a sheet pile weir with restrictors in there and the allowance for the town of Schererville Public Works Department to be able to provide maintenance for that, to allow that detention to happen within this area. The studies we did prior to coming to you guys back in 2017 and subsequent to that, we determined that due to the fact that we're not increasing the high water levels that currently exist in this area, we're only mitigating the release of that. And then once they hit anything above that 100-year 16-hour storm, there will be no potential damage to any surrounding residences, commercial or otherwise, in that area north of 77th, west of US 41 and south of US 30. So it's a fairly simple project, but as everyone's seeing with supply chain issues, the structure we're looking is going to be a sheet pile structure, and then the restrictors, the weirs, and then the circular restrictors will be modified once that structure is in place. That's where we have the proposed costs, and working with several contractors and material suppliers of the sheet piles is the $425,000 for construction. We appreciate your time, and I will entertain any questions you may have.
Is the 57 acres on top of what's there now, or is it part of what's there?
The 57 acre feet that's being utilized through this structure currently exists, but it runs currently unabated through those 336-inch pipes. And what this will do will, what we've seen in large storms that essentially flush the debris to those 336-inch culverts, the high water does exist, but it doesn't have the opportunity to be released as those culverts are plugged. This will allow the town not only to maintain the structure, but provide that detention as a side benefit, which already does exist.
So there's a lot of culverts as part of this whole system.
That already exist. You're absolutely
And what
correct.
kind of condition are they in?
Those were replaced in 2008, if I'm correct, due to a failure from existing corrugated metal pipes. Those were all replaced by the town with the Public Works Department with high-density polyethylene.
And are you guys monitoring those right now for blockage and flow and everything else?
The town is, they have it on what they call their hot list. They have, half a dozen sanitary sewers, 2 dozen storm sewers, and they do routinely maintain those as needed.
So in your opinion, how much additional acre feet of storage do you think we may benefit from?
What I would say is, that's an excellent question. The better review of this from what we've determined is when those culverts are plugged, you get the entirety of the 57 acre feet, but everything goes straight to release once they're plugged. And then it may take a few days for the town to get out there and do the maintenance on that. But with what we're proposing with the weir structure, you'll have a consistent regulated release rather than everything going 100% to overflow when those culverts are plugged.
Control flow.
Exactly, yes.
Well, I guess this structure that you're gonna put in, is it gonna be at a fixed elevation or is it gonna be adjusted?
It's going to be a fixed elevation. There's currently a high water overflow that happens across the road, slightly to the north of the area where those 36-inch culverts are located. And it's an incredibly wide area, so the water there never gets more than a couple inches deep. So all we're essentially doing is saying our low waters here during what we would consider a drought elevation. The high water ends up here, and we're going to work within that same elevation and just utilize the area that already exists. But as the water comes up, we'll release it at a rate consistent with what current design standards would be, up to the point where we hit that 100-year, 16-hour storm. And then it would operate as it does currently if those culverts are plugged. But once the waters start to recede, then instead of going, at a direct release, it's mitigated at that restrictor rate.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Ron.
2 questions, I guess. On your cover sheet, you show the proximity of the project on Sunset Boulevard, which is very close to Sherwood Lake. Does a high water event, heavy rain, affect Sherwood Lake? And is this water that could be coming from there that you're looking to trap also? And then number 2, on the official application, you call out a possible 20 to 25 homes or structures that could be protected. But then on attachment 4, it says unknown number.
And I'll start at the end. The unknown number is because, as I mentioned earlier, the benefited area is essentially everything downstream. Yeah, so to calculate that number, I'd probably call Bill Emerson and say, put Dan Gossman and figure out every structure downstream of this that could potentially benefit. So that's a very good question. And what that number is, it's in excess of several thousand. The Sherwood Lakes area, which is directly west of this, they do contribute to the area, but they're a reasonably small portion relative to the flow that's ultimately coming south of 77th north to this area. And we had looked in our initial review of every culvert, every structure that was in Sherwood Lakes, that we would not be necessarily negatively impacting them, but allow their systems to work as proposed, and they currently operate. We just utilize that float between the current low water level and the high water level. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thanks, Neil.
Thanks. We appreciate your time tonight.